is Francesca Calo. I'm an actor, I'm a director. I work mostly in video games and animation and theater and film. My background is in theater. I started at the Academy of Dramatic Arts when I was 7, thanks to my dad, Frank Calo. And then I continued acting and studied at the Moscow Art Theater, so a lot of classical theater, moved into film and television. And then during the pandemic, I moved into voiceover because that was the only thing that was working at the time. And it opened a lot of doors for me, and now I do everything. So I've done a lot of video games and cartoons for like BBC, Cartoon Network. And my favorite thing, which we're going to see a little bit of today, yes. I was like, I think you still have it, is MOCAP and performance capture, which is a combination of all of those things. Does anyone here play video games or anything like that? Yeah. Okay, yeah. And if anyone here has seen Lord of the Rings or Avatar, yeah. Those are all really great examples of performance capture. Yeah.
Avatar: The Last Airbender?
No, Avatar, like the James Cameron films.
Like with the blue people?
Yeah. Yeah. Those are great examples of performance capture, and we're gonna see a couple of examples of various different kinds because I just want to share it because I really love it. And then I'm gonna just open it up to, because we don't have that much time, just questions or anything like that about acting or the process or whatever you need, whether you're an actor or a director. I do a lot of directing for animation and voice directing for like anime. Is anyone here an anime fan? Okay, a few. I'm an anime fan. I grew up with anime. It's the Japanese cartoons that are usually Japanese that are come over. So cool. Let us start with the mocap. No, we'll do the mocap. It's not the clean one, right?
Oh, yes, not the clean one.
Can we do the full one? Cool. So before I start, we'll see different kinds of motion capture. You'll see creature mocap, which is what we saw in Planet of the Apes, or like what Andy Serkis does. And then a more action version, and then a more cinematic, just to give you a scope of what this genre is like. Here we go. This is just creature walks. We're using the arm extensions to learn how to walk like apes and run. And then this is a scene from the game The Last of Us, which was also a TV. We'll watch it. You see the rendered and on the set.
Thanks. Ellie. Hey, wait. Stop!
Bill!
What are you doing?
Bill! Turn around and get on your knees.
Calm down a second.
Turn around, all right? Get on your knees. Don't test me. Just take it easy. Like food. Anything sprout? You goddamn, I'm clean. I see so much as a brother. You done? Am I done? You come into my house. You set off all my traps. You damn near break my shooting arm. Who the fuck is this punk and what's she doing here?
I am in your goddamn business, and we're here because you all Joel some favors. You can start, so get your knees up.
I owe Joel some favors, some joke.
I'll cut you, please. I need a car.
Well, it is a joke. Joel needs a car. Well, if I had one that works, which I sure as hell don't, what makes you think I'd just give it to you? Huh? Yeah, sure, Joel, go ahead. Take my car. Take all my food, too, while you're at it.
Well, it looks like you could lose some of that food.
Listen to these little
No,
shit.
fuck you, you handcuffed.
I need you to shut them up.
All right?
Whatever favors you think I owe you ain't worth that much.
Actually, they are.
Well, it don't matter because I don't have a car that works.
But there is one in this thing.
Parts. There are parts in this town.
Meaning that you could fix one up.
All right. We're gonna do this. There's some gear I'm gonna need. It's on the other side of town. And you help me go gather it, and maybe I can put something together that runs. But after this, I owe you nothing.
That's fine. A couple days from now, we'll probably be dead anyway.
Good. Call me. Don't flop down the town's booby trap. Just stay right on my ass.
Knock it off.
Can we just pause there for a sec? There's another scene that we're going to see as well, but I just wanted to open up. I know some people may have seen this yesterday, but some observations from you guys about the way that this works. Yeah.
It's really interesting, and I'm not sure if there's a question or statement, but it's really interesting that, when actors start learning the craft, they're in a room, in a class with nothing, and it's really interesting that this is the most evolved version, technologically of what it is, and yet it's almost like you're back in class, so that those early acting skills are probably unbelievably critical here, where you've got nothing, you're surrounded by sheets and metal poles, and you have to act like you're somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one of my favorite things about it, is that it really brings you back to the basics of your craft. It is pure imagination. Like, even if you saw the props, you don't have any real props. You don't have costumes to help you. You're really going back. And this is why I think for people starting out who want to be actors, like, theater is such an important training, especially in the beginning, because that's when you really start to delve into your craft, learn how to break down a script, learn how to deal with your imagination. Because when you get into things like this, it's like theater in the round, meaning the audience is all around you, plus film acting, plus voiceover, plus just your pure imagination. So I just find that fascinating to work with, because it is going back to your basic training. And if you saw, so this space that they're in is called the volume. There are cameras all around, so it's 360, capturing every single movement. The balls and the suits that you have on there, they're tracking like all your digits. You're basically your skeleton. So even just slight movements of your fingers, they're able to track. And then what I also love too is the freedom that it allows both actors and animators and producers to basically be in a blank space and create a world like this that is completely different from what you're doing in that space.
Freedom of space to act.
Yes, yeah. Within those constraints of the volume, because it is like a stage, but yes. And it comes down to miming and improvisation, like when you see, because of the constraints of the suits, when Bill, who is this actor here, he takes off his helmet or his hat, he doesn't actually have anything on, so he has to know where that is. It's very precise and technical in that way. Right here, yeah. So it really does bring all aspects of acting together for one. Yeah.
One thing I also noticed as well is the fact that the camera angles are matching within the game. And I played the game before and it's very cinematic. Is that something that's usually standard to the process whenever you're doing the MOCAP, like in the volume, where you're pre-recording like what the angles are supposed to be on set for reference? Or is that something that was more exceptional to this because of that cinematic?
That is something that's more exceptional to this particular game. We're going to see another one called God of War, where that is not necessarily the case. They don't have specific angles and but yeah, I mean, the 360 capture allows them to take whatever angle they want to insert into the game. Even like we'll see in God of War 2, sometimes you'll have helmets with cameras right in your face. And so with that, if I were to like drink something, I'd have to bring it up here because the camera, I don't want to block the camera, and then they can move it to where it needs to be. But yeah, you had a question, Dan.
Yeah, I know in theater, like when it comes to acting, it's like very big movements, and then whenever it's in film, it's very nuanced. When you're doing mocap, where do you find like that this lands in there?
It's kind of like in the middle between them because you can't just sit there. Even when you're breathing, you have to have some sort of movement in your chest, right? If you're running, it's just a little bit exaggerated, but you don't want to go as big as theater because we're still working with cameras. And if you go as big as theater, if you gesticulate, it's harder for the animators to move it in certain ways. So you have to kind of be pretty precise, even down to like the way your back is curved or acting, your back acting, just because you just have to remember that the animators are going to be using it. So if there's too much superfluous moving, then they won't be able to use that. But at the same time, it's as with all acting, it's the truth of whatever those circumstances are, those imaginary circumstances are. So you want to be true to the character, just be a little bit aware. Like I know, I don't have examples, but sometimes we do walk cycles, sort of what you saw the second clip of just like walking with features. They also do that with just main characters and stuff like that. It's like when the player is running, right? And like you might just exaggerate the stop a little bit just to like show that the character stops. So you'll be like, and maybe take a movement stance or something like that. So it's a little exaggerated, but you're still working with film. So you gotta, it's like a nice mix. Anything else? Anyone? Yeah.
So I noticed in Planet of the Apes clip, there were dots on the faces of the actor. In the other one, there weren't. And in the Planet of the Apes clip, that you got more of the actual emotional muscle movement of the face in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a function of budget? Is that a function of style? How do you determine whether you're going to go with that, which gives you more detailed emotional reaction, versus the other one, which feels almost in that respect a little more two-dimensional?
Yeah. So the Planet of the Apes, I think because it was so detailed with the ape movement, they definitely wanted to capture. I think it's a differentiation between style and what they're recording that day. On The Last of Us, they may not have been recording the faces that day, but the voices and just the movement. But they do also use the cameras, which we'll see in God of War, which also captures the face. But I think it depends on how the animators want to animate it that day. It's not really, I guess I was going to say it's not really a budget thing, but you have lower budget MOCAP tiers as well where they don't capture the face. They might just be doing the movement of that day. So it could be split between performance capture, which is when you capture the whole body, and MOCAP, motion capture, which is just the movements, no voice. So yeah, it depends on the style too. Yeah.
When you first booked one of these big, like your first one, what was, from an actor point of view, because I know I did like Grand Theft Auto, but I had no idea. You show up. What was your experience as an actor to deal with all this? Because it really is, it's crazy people that do all this. It's all, what was your experience? Were you nervous going into it? Because I was like, everything is PVC. I felt like I was at a Home Depot. What was your experience with, especially a high-end game like this?
Yeah.
Being able to say, oh, I gotta actually do a scene here. What was that like when you first walked out?
I was extremely nervous. But I really found this medium interesting for a while. So I studied it with groups like the MOCAP Vaults in LA. They also do New York groups. So I had a little bit of preparation of what to expect, but obviously going in, it's like a whole different ball game because you're for some games they don't even tell you what you're working on until the day of, so you can't really prepare until the day before or maybe a week before when you get the sides, and then sometimes it changes anyway, just like a film set. So I really embraced kind of working with the director. I trusted my director a lot, and the animators, because they know so much more about it than I do, and so they rely heavily on the animators and the directors, and then we had also rehearsal time a little bit to just go through blocking. It felt like a theater rehearsal where we had like a couple of hours in the morning to go over everything, go over the lines, go over the blocking, make sure we knew where our markers were. And then we ran it a couple of times, just like a quick dry run, and then we would film it. But yeah, I was extremely nervous because these sets, because of all the cameras they have, they're extremely expensive, and they're like time is money for them, so it adds that extra pressure as well. But yeah.
I think it's important to explain for about a minute this stage and then what happens after this stage in post with the animators, the engineers, how they can lay down the set. What's the next stage after they like in post and they film and they post? I think it'd be helpful if you explain what's after this for the
Right. So post, the animators, the video game animators grab all this data, either real time, and they're rendering it down, and then they insert into the game. Usually they have their environments or some idea of what's happening in the game already, or some animation that's already in the game. And then this is like one of the last steps before they finalize everything and are able to render it into what you see as the final product. But sometimes on sets, and we'll see it in God of War 2, or God of War as well, they might have animation already, and you're kind of marking to the animation and seeing the visuals there, but it depends on the game. Sometimes they already have the worlds built, sometimes they don't. So when they do build the worlds, they're using all this data for the characters and then starting to render it into the video game world. It's sometimes more, like 1 to 2 years. It's like a film, like a amount of time it takes for a film. Yeah, it could be even more than that, depending on the project. And then sometimes it's just, sometimes for MOCAP 2, you'll do this thing where it's like a movement dubbing, if you will. Like a voice actor will have already done the voice, and then they hire somebody else to do the movement. And then the actor who's doing the movement has to match the voice and the action of the voice. So there are different ways of doing it. But yeah, so they'll mostly, this is like the end step, or close to the end, they'll grab movement and then they'll animate to the movement. Anything else? Okay, cool. We'll watch the next one, which is God of War, which is a little more cinematic. You can see on the corner up there, there's a little bit of an animatic that they're reacting to.
You think I'm weak because I'm not like you. I knew it was never what you wanted. But after all this, I thought maybe things were different.
You do not know everything, boy.
No. But at least I know the truth now.
Truth. The truth.
Why did you wait so long to tell me?
I had hoped to spare you. King God. It can be a lifetime of anguish and tragedy.
Huh?
Again, I said nothing.
Wait, this one you said so.
What is it, boy?
Hey, voices. You don't hear that?
I hear nothing.
Hey, it's going away now. It was screaming. Lots of voices. Angry. You really didn't hear that?
No.
Shut up.
Boy, I was gone only. Moments.
No! You've been gone a long time!
You will always be a monster.
I know.
Well, so that's the God of War. And like to your question before about how they set up the cameras and stuff like that for this one, you can see they had a handheld camera as well as the 360 camera. So it really depends on the style of how they want to interact with it. One of the things I also love about the God of War is just how you can see the crew working behind them as well. Like when they have props, because they're not being tracked by the trackers, you have this freedom to play with props and hand them off. If you have a sword and you need it to go away, like we do in video games, it just drops it and it disappears. And you can see the action of you have the crew pulling them. So it really is all hands on deck. And we can see the Avatar movies and stuff like that. It allows a lot of freedom for, I think, both creators and actors to do really quality work. And it's becoming more and more of a bigger part of technology in cinema. Does anybody have any questions? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Do you have a question? Or? Yeah.
I'm bouncing off what he said, I think it's important also, is that he talked about the actors, and you saw that dragon head coming in, and they have to stand there and react to that, and frontal and back, and I think that's amazing for the actors to do as well. It's all interacting, it's true.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of green screen as well, green screen acting, but to a more detailed extent. Yeah, I mean, what I also love is that as you're not confined to, like sometimes in theater or film, a type. If you're an actor, you can really play anything. Like I've played creatures, I've played little boys. It really allows this great freedom based on your movements and how you really see a character and develop a character. So it's pure acting. Yeah.
You spoke a little bit about how you trained for your first movies. What does that look like? I think you mentioned a group, and how does that differ before you actually?
Sure. Yeah, so we did, there's a group called the MOCAP Vaults. They work a lot. They have classes bi-coastally, but mostly in LA, and then they also have some across the seas. But really, the training is going back to theater and going back to that state of pure imagination. It's a lot of physicality. We did and learning how your body works and what your tics are, breaking down again your movements and stuff. Like if I'm sitting like this tells a story. Where if I'm sitting like this, so really finding out what you do naturally, and then working with how that translates into a character. That makes sense. So breaking down, like if I have a tic, that's going to be captured on screen as well. So I take note of that, and then I work on whatever I need to do. And then it's all character work and figuring out who the character is, how do they stand, where do they lead with your body. It's really going back to the physical training that one receives in like theater training. And then also for me, I'm a martial artist, and I started doing stunt work and creature work. So I just learned, you can watch videos of animals, for example, and like look at the way they move, because even like big cats, tigers, lions, they all have different ways of movement. Studying that and filming yourself to learn just how their movements are and how much you can match, like just take a segment of an animal video and then try and match their movements. And then, yeah, and finding where the character sits, where the character leads with, all that stuff. But anything you can do like physically, like if you can horseback ride, if you can shoot an arrow, if you're interested in doing stunt work or just taking a martial arts, anything like that, they're always looking for those kinds of projects or those kinds of skill sets, because they can use that in everything. So just growing your skill set as a whole will help with that. Does that help? Any other questions about acting in general, the process, working with sides or anything like that?
The difference between working on something like this and then, because you're also a film actress and you go to a regular film set, how do you feel the difference? I mean, when you're with the whole crew and a film and the whole crew on motion capture, how do you feel the difference?
So this feels more like a theater set. It feels more like collaborative rehearsals and 360 views and working like that way, where we have a rehearsal and they can, yeah, sometimes, yeah. They can shoot out of sequence, so in that way it's more like film. But in terms of being in the space, it feels more like doing theater in the round. So being like in a 360 environment. And you, in this case, if you mess up, you have to start from the beginning. You don't have time, or you don't have the ability to edit a scene or splice and edit a scene. Yeah. So usually we'll have like an 8-hour day, so similar to a film set, or maybe not. not close to a film set at all, actually. Less than, no. Yeah, for a little bit, no. I'm thinking of that's the film set. So 8-hour day, usually 9 to 5. So better sometimes than a film set, in that you're not doing late nights. And then you'll get like a sides or script for that day or scene for that day, and you'll work through maybe 1 or 2 scenes for that day and really hash it out. And then you film all that day, and then that's it for that scene. So you have to wrap all of it that day. Right, with anything, especially video games and animation, but especially video games, you sign a really hard NDA, non-disclosure agreement, and you can't talk about it at all. And sometimes you don't even know what you're working on until you get into the room. Like I've had auditions for big IPs, and they've changed the name, they changed all the characters, all the dialogue, so you can't even discuss it. You can't even tell what it might be, like Star Wars or whatever. They might give you sides that are like more modern or everyday sides. So they're really, really, really specific about their people not leaking these games, because they don't want anyone to know what they're working on. Yeah, it's very crazy. Yeah.
Studio are they filming these things in? Because I'm just thinking, like the size of the gymnasium, kind of?
It depends. It could be the size of this room, or it could be like the size of this stage. There's a game that recently came out called Expedition 33. and they had 2 actors. And if you look at behind the scenes, it looks like they're just in a room, just on with the suits and stuff. So yeah, it could depend on what the client needs or what they need for that day. But generally, like you can work because it basically is taped off essentially, and like there's a certain point where the cameras won't capture your movement. So if you literally just step over that line, you'll lose a leg or whatever. But yeah, you can use it in any space. And there are suits available. They're a little expensive, but they have different tiers of suits that one can purchase. And there's a lot of technology out there now, even on the iPhones, where you can just render that.
You're not needing people to build big giant sets.
Right, yeah. Yeah, you don't need huge sets. It takes away the costumes. It takes away all those sets. It's so you can really do what you need in a limited amount of space. Yeah, and it keeps evolving.
In the old days, they had the costumes, and nowadays they digitize the whole outfit. And as a film, they don't use the costumes anymore. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Is there a field with AI?
Yes, there is a huge fear with AI, as I think everything with the industry is. We just had a video game strike where it was addressed. We are now out of the strike, but that was a big component of what basically for that, the video game developers and companies, they thought of performances as data, not as performance. So they were like, why should we pay for that if you're just data to us? We can get it anywhere. We can use it anywhere. And they were trying to also capture movement. If you did something like this, they could hold it in perpetuity and they could use it for whatever they wanted. Similar to the Disney combat that a lot of people had, even extras who were trying to fight against using AI. So it's constantly a thing, but fortunately also a lot of people in the industry are fighting back against it, but it's something that we're constantly aware of. I saw a question all the way in the back. Yeah. They're like pajamas or like sweatpants. It's just that you do have these, depending on the suit that you're wearing, you do have these like hard balls that are like attached everywhere to you, and that can be a little uncomfortable. And then you also are mic'd, and you also have the big headset that you saw in God of War, and that weighs a little bit, but you're like strapped into it. And it's just getting used to that movement too, of acting naturally with all this tech and stuff. But similar to in film, and where you're mic'd and you have a mic pack and you have to be aware of where that is, stuff like that. Yeah, but otherwise you're like in pajama, soft clothing. Yeah.
How do they determine like when they're getting a voice actor for a video game versus like actually using the person who is motion capturing and using their, like, do they often just say, hey, we want you to do the motion capture too? I had a cousin who did voice acting for a video game, but he didn't even know what it was or whatever, and I don't think he went through MOCAP, but it was one of those things where it was involved, where he did like voices and stuff like that. So how do they kind of like...
It depends on the production. They might know early on that they want to do performance capture and motion capture, and usually those auditions are similar to film and television or theater, where you have to do a self-tape. And then sometimes they might be looking just for the performance capture and not the voice, in which case you'll do a self-tape anyway, but they'll probably give a disclaimer that you will not be the voice.
So follow up, do they then have, like, say they already captured the emotions or something, do you have to like watch like a screen and basically like mimic the...
Yeah, so you would basically be matching your vocal performance to the face that was captured and trying to match it as much as possible. There is some freedom that they can re-render mouths and stuff, but if they're using a different voice actor or performer, either one will have to match whatever was done before. So I've also done something similar, which was for MOCAP, but I did the movement, and somebody else had already done the voice. So we had the script on like a teleprompter. we saw what they did, how the actor did it, and then we had to match movement to that, and all with the action and stuff like that. Yeah.
And where you guys, are you part of SAG as well?
Yes, I'm SAG.
So talk about the pay rates, the pay scale, opposed to SAG actors in films.
It's a day player rate, so I think it's $1,015 for 8 hours.
The main actors are there for years, so they can make like $1 million a show.
They can make a lot, yeah, and depending on the actor, they can negotiate their deals and stuff like that, similar to film and television. There's Troy Baker, who you saw on Last of Us. He does a lot of this stuff. I don't know what he makes, but he can make a lot. Yeah. And you also get, you don't get residuals, but that's something SAG's working on. You do not.
But for people like Troy, he gets a percentage of the Call of Duty, right?
I believe so, but I don't know because his is an individual contract. Oh, yeah.
Kind of an ethereal question, but as they're trying to make this more realistic, but also keeping an animation, where's that line of?
Where is the line?
Yeah, like maintaining the animation style, but also making it as real as possible.
You mean in terms of like how the animators process it? Right, but I think the difference is that here they're dealing with bigger worlds than what we can capture in film and television. So I guess the line is the story that they're trying to tell versus like, will this serve as a game? Can we use this narrative as a game and get players involved in that way? Because it is still like, you want the players' attention. These cutscenes are like throughout the games rather than just like a whole film where it's just cinematic. I guess that line is, yeah, how do they want to tell that story? Is it more involved in players versus just watching with an audience? But also because so many games are now so cinematic, they become huge IPs. And like The Last of Us, there's now a TV show. There's Fallout 4. There's another one that's coming out soon for a video game. So it's constantly, I think the line is becoming more blurred between mediums because of this technology. Yeah. Oh, yeah, all the way back.
Going back to the question with the pajamas, but also what really, as an actor, when you see so many new actors coming on board from your experience, what were some of the challenges? Because actors rely on, as a stage actor, your wardrobe, your environment, things like that. So what kind of challenges do you see yourself and other actors having when they first start doing this type of work?
Yeah, letting go of those constraints and being free to just sink into the freedom of what that is, of your imagination. I think for film actors, in particular, it can be harder to be a little bigger if they haven't had like theater training, because sometimes voice actors get into this and they've only done voice acting, they don't have on-camera experience as much. But for film actors who have the on-set experience and are used to costumes and those kinds of environments and having a set, that can be a little challenging. But like I know when I first started doing it, one of the notes I got from a teacher or a director rather was to be just a little bit bigger, even with the breathing. So I was trying to perform for film and TV because the cameras are right here. It feels like film in some ways, but you still need to capture certain movements. It cannot be still. It can't be stagnant like in film and television, and it can't be huge like theater. So finding that medium and in the genre of it I think, is challenging to find. And then, yeah, just having the freedom to let go of your expectations and embracing the fact that you're in whatever world you're in and have to categorize it like any other character you might have. Yeah.
Being someone who's not overwhelmingly familiar with these games, but what I imagine is gaming, don't there need to be multiple choices, multiple outcomes. So for an actor, we're normally working off a script where you know where it's going and everything. Is that complicated, from an acting standpoint? If you're doing a scene where, you capture the girl and then you're doing the same exact scene that you don't capture it.
Right.
And, you drop the thing, you don't drop the thing. How do you deal with that from a preparation standpoint as an actor?
Yeah.
All these different versions.
I also rely heavily on the director in those cases too, because oftentimes they know more than the actor. They've talked to the animators before, they've talked to the producers, and so they know where the story is going. And so when you're coming in with sides and it's like, today we're doing this side of the story, and then in the afternoon we're doing this side of the story, it's really trusting your director to guide you in that sense. And yeah, it is like, okay, what is this? But it's exploring the character to its fullest as well. So what is this character like when they save the girl versus when they kill the girl? And exploring that too. Yeah, you can make choices. And sometimes you don't know, again, until the day of. But that's where the directors, and there's animators on set as well, so you can talk to them and be like, okay, what's the environment right now? Is she like captured? What's going on? So you're relying really heavily on your crew and your directors who know more. Yeah.
I think it's also about the crossover from here to film. When they did the game here, Last of Us, and then they did the HBO special, they used they were smart in production, when they were doing pre-production castings. They took the clickers, like zombie type figures, from the game because they already knew how to move. They knew they transfer over and they hired them for live action as well. So that would be crossover. I think somebody asked about crossing over. That's a crossover too. I thought that was very necessary. They already knew how to move. But then they used real makeup in the film opposed to digital makeup here. And the lady we saw, Ella, right? Wasn't she was the voice.
Yeah, so the actress who played Ellie in the clip, Ashley Johnson, was also in The Last of Us season 1. She played Ellie's mother. But that was a choice for production to bring all these people back, which was great. Yeah. Because they're such big IPs now, you want to be as truthful to it as possible. Yeah. I think, yeah.
So coming from voice acting world, you get a character and you have to create them, or sometimes you get some imagery, right?
Yes, sometimes you do get some imagery.
You get that with motion capture, and then how is it coming, having to create this character in the voice, but now also the body language and all that stuff as well?
Yeah, you depending on what you're doing, like if you're doing a character from the beginning of stages, you don't really have an image. So it is like a film and television audition or theater audition where you have to come in with ideas and bring it to life and stuff like that. And then when you have an audition, it's interesting because it's similar to a theater or film audition. You come into a room and the director's there and you have another actor or reader and you work the scene that way. And you're just, depending on the director, you're kind of finding the character in that, or you get adjustments. You're discovering the character as you go. And then sometimes you'll get the role and then you're discovering it on set too. And just because of the pure technicality of the movements of what that character needs to do that day. And sometimes you're given like 5 other characters and they're like, hey, we need you to be a little girl. Can you just grab this movement for us? And that you just don't have the time to prepare for. So you're like, okay, I'm a little girl. Okay, I'm a 3-headed monster. Got it. So there's a lot of improv that can go into it too that can help. Same with voiceover. Voiceover, you will mostly, but not always, you will get an image and then you can shape your character around the image. Sometimes you just get a description like hyper, but serious, like conflicting descriptions. And you just have to create that character based on what you get. Yeah. I think we have time for one more. There's a question all the way in the back. Yes.
As an actor, when you are working on a set like this, and you said sometimes you don't even know what you're working on, how do you connect to your character if you don't really know the story?
Relying heavily on the script and what's there. I think the script can give you all the answers, and also the director as well will guide you. But mind the script like you would for theater or film, that's where your answers are. I think that's all the time we have. Oh, just kidding, 5 minutes. Well, oh, yes.
I'm curious, too, as an actor, can you speak more to the training that we can do? You mentioned that there's more places popping up to train. Are there places where you can go and improv with other people? And I'm also curious that once you get into a group like this, do they tend to hire the same people again and again?
So yes, yes, it's a small community, but it's growing and mighty. It's kind of similar to a stunt community. You know, you have the people you know and can rely on to do certain things. And that's why I think if you can grow any skills that you have, like again, if you do gymnastics, if you do martial arts, etc., just really hone in on those skills because that's what makes you stand out on those resumes. In terms of training, there are places, I think Rose, you just told me about a place in Atlanta that just opened up, Form Studios. You can reach out to some of those studios. There are, because it's kind of close-knit, they may not always have like classes or anything like that, but you can work on, even if you do self-taping, just like self-tape your movements or self-tape yourself walking and see what you look like walking versus running, and then pick a character, you know, like I'm going to be a warrior who has like broad shoulders and has like a big broadsword that they carry all the time. And how does that change your movements? And then you can tape that. And then if you're want to do creature work, look at like zombie movies, look at like video games, look at other mediums to just see how those move and try to embody that yourself, because it is very physical embodiment of a character. And I think that's the best way to kind of build those skills. And then if you can find classes, again, like MOCAP Vaults has a bunch. I'm trying to think of others, but I can't right now. But just keep an eye out for those, or reach out to studios to see if you're like, hey, I'm learning about this. I would love to be a body if you need to. If you need any, please keep me in mind, etc. Yeah. Yes.
How is it that you, as a voice actor, keep yourself consistent, but then you don't make the character sound exactly the same each time, or have that wide variety? So when you hear that voice, I know that person, but it's still that individual character, but you don't make it sound too much like another character.
Differentiating characters? It's just learning your instrument. So your body is your instrument in this case, and for voiceover, and especially your voice is, what happens if I put a little rasp on, and suddenly I become like a little boy, in cartoons at least. Or just learning your pitches, taking vocal lessons. You really are learning your instrument from the bottom to top, especially for voiceover and mocap and performance capture. You want to know how you can handle your body and what it can do and how to treat it, just like for theater and film. Yeah. Yes?
So as the technology, I've always associated this with, higher end productions in video games. As the technology has become more widespread and cheaper, where do you see it going for low budget indies, practical effects versus this type of thing? When would there be a situation where $500 million film could use something like this to help it with?
Yeah, I think it's becoming more accessible to indie productions. For example, some of the suits, you don't need the 360 cameras anymore, or you can just set it up. There are programs where you can set it up with your iPhones or things like that. Again, there's a game called Expedition 33, which was an indie project and is now one of the biggest games out there. And they had a lower budget, but they become so popular as a game. So it is accessible, and there are even apps for capturing the face that you can then render into different programs to help. So I think the monetary cost would be for the suits if you really want a high-end suit, but there are different tiers of that as well.
So you mentioned your cost a minute ago. Does it have the same, this kind of acting have the same tiers as a low budget?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think we have time for one more in the back. Yes.
You said you did stunts. Have you done stunts for motion capture? And like, if you have, is there a difference between
So I have done a little bit of stunts, but not like crazy stunts. I've done more like stunts for like creature work, and then because I'm a martial artist, just those kinds of stunts, but not like wire work or like flying and flipping and all like Parker type stunts. But those are in high demand always. So if you are interested in that, highly recommend doing it. Okay, thank you. Hope it was informative. Thank you.